the really easy way to do it, Simon, you're already there, but I'm going to do it with you because it's easy, is if people were really struggling to get under there, it's always easy if you take their feet, most people. If you just take their feet wider to be able to get them close to their pelvis. Yeah? So if you struggle to keep your knees underneath, to get your knees over your feet, really feel free to play around with the width a little bit, just to see if that enables you to find a little bit more lightness in your pelvis. So how quickly could you lift your pelvis? Just bump, 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 bump. And it could sit down on the right buttock or the left buttock or the sacrum, and feel how light can you find your pelvis can be if you've really got this nice support in your upper back and on your feet. Great. Okay, so once you've got that feeling, or what you can find at the moment, could you lift your pelvis just a little bit off the floor and go back to that movement we were doing the other day? So to do this, you can feel your butt isn't holding on. No? You're not. And could you begin to do that little rock we were doing the other day with your pelvis just up off the floor? And remember, you were sending the force to your head and back. And this was a movement with your ankles. So you've lifted your pelvis. It's really light. So now your feet and your ankles are doing this little oscillate on the ground. So your pelvis doesn't go up and down in the air. It doesn't go up and down. So it stays fairly low if you can. And feel again, is your tendency when you do this oscillation to push more towards your head or to come more down towards your feet? Or could you feel you could get a pretty equal push and pull going here? So you weren't biasing yourself in one direction. And you could really feel that your pelvis wasn't going up and down, or sorry, I should say forward and back relative to you, up and down relative to the ceiling. Yeah. And you're really not lifting your pelvis to do it. You're really not lifting your pelvis. You're not arching your back. It really is that you've lifted to a height that's really light with your pelvis. So again, if you're not sure, go back and just again do that really light lifting of your pelvis that you found. So you're not lifting your pelvis any higher than where you felt it just felt really, really light. And then if you could put your hands on your upper ribs, your sternum, and a little bit of awareness on the curve at the back of your neck. Could you just gently continue this little rock up and down and feel, are my ribs soft? Are they soft? Do I feel that there's any point where as I sort of push that they get hard? Can I feel the curve behind my neck will change as I do this? There'll be a little oscillation of my chin up and down. And when your chin will come down as your feet pull, and your chin will go up a little bit as your feet push. But you can really feel the curve in the back of your neck, the softness at the front of your throat. So you know you're not pushing into resistance, but it's always this lovely soft reversibility. down, up, down, up, down. So this isn't what we were doing the other day with all the oscillation where you were using push and release, push and release. It's a real push, pull, push, pull, push, pull, push, pull, push, pull, push, pull, push, pull. It's a real evenness about it. Okay, then very gently allow your pelvis to lower to the ground from where it was. Keep your knees bent up. And now can you do just a little pelvic roll? So it's just a little roll across the ground between 12 and 6, 12 and 6. So this isn't the lift that we were doing the other day. It's just a really gentle roll of your pelvis. 12, 6, 12, 6, 12, 6, 12, 6. And could you find a really light way to do this as well? And feel how much has this got to do with your low belly, with the ability of your low belly to gently lengthen and push forward, and then to shorten and pull in a little bit. So that you could feel a little bit like a piece of jelly. Sort of rocking up and down a little bit. And how fast could you do that? And really feel your low belly, the freedom in your low belly to change its shape. The freedom maybe for some of you of your sit bones to maybe spread a little bit or come together a little bit. So this freedom of the low belly is really associated with the freedom of your pelvis. Okay, now slow that movement down, and we're still doing just a bit of a roll at the moment. 12, 6, 12, 6. And then as you go towards 6, which is down in the direction of your feet, if you put your hands on your low belly, right down, just above your pubic bone, so you're below the front of your pelvis, you're below those big bones at the front of your pelvis. Could you feel that as you go toward 6, that you feel this area just right above the pubic bone could get a little bit wider, and your sit bones could spread a little bit apart. As you went towards 6. So the very low belly could get a little bit wider as it pushes forward a little bit. So it's not just pushing forward, but it's widening a little bit. Right down just above your pubic bone. And you'll feel your sit bones start to spread. It's not a big movement. They're very small movements of the pelvis. But you'll feel something in your pelvic floor just tends to release a little bit to allow your sit bones to spread. And then if you came a little bit back toward 12 o'clock, you might feel that as the low belly pulls in, it gets a little bit smaller, not quite as wide, and the sit bones come together a little bit. So these are very, very small pelvic movements. And feel as you just move between those very gently. Okay, so once you've got the low belly bit, could you then put your fingers onto the front of your pelvis? Big bone at the front. And feel as you go toward 6 o'clock, your low belly gets wider and goes forward. Your sit bones go a little bit apart. And these two bones come a little bit together. Huh? So these two bones come a little bit together while the low belly gets wider and goes forward. And the sit bones begin to spread and open. And then as you come back toward 12 o'clock, you'll feel as the low belly pulls more in and comes together a little bit, and the sit bones come together a little bit, but the front of your pelvis gets a little bit wider. It's a little bit of a paradox what's going on at these two different levels. These movements, absolutely essential for good pelvic floor function. We'll be doing more on them in later segments. I spend lots of time doing these movements with clients of mine who are pregnant. But they can really feel these very subtle pelvic movements that really allow the hips to become free. And again, just to all you males in the audience, females obviously this movement is bigger because their pelvises are so much wider, but you can still absolutely feel the tiny little movements. Millimetre. It's tiny, but really important. Okay. So now if you were going to take your belly forward using that a little bit to lift your pelvis, how would it feel? So you felt as your low belly went forward, your sit bones would widen a little bit to lift your pelvis, to put the weight onto your feet. And does that feel unfamiliar for some of you? And feel what happens in your chin. And how high, if you kept following that through. Could you lift the weight onto your upper back? So that you feel you're constantly redistributing the weight between your feet and your upper back. So your neck then can remain free. Your neck can be really free to change its curves. And feel, if you do this, that when you lower, you tend to lower and put your tailbone down first again. So this is not saying this is the only way to lift your pelvis. You do a spinal chain, which is the opposite, where you're pulling your belly in and rolling up one vertebra at a time. But a lot of these lessons that we've been doing here, which are about letting your belly be long, really finding how the front of you can get longer so that your extensors can work a little bit more efficiently because they're not fighting your belly. And then, see, could you pull your low belly in and do this? And if you've got your feet in a comfortable position, you can still feel that can put the weight onto your feet. So that in the end, your pelvis is free to pull in a little bit or pull out a little bit. When it's once it's lifted, you could change the tilt of your pelvis at any time. You could change the curves in your back at any time. So your pelvis hasn't got locked in to the movement of your legs. They're all still responsive, ready to move. So now, lift your pelvis, come up onto your upper back to where it's comfortable. And see if it's possible once you get there, what's happened in the back of your neck? Has the back of your neck got longer? Has your chin maybe come down a little bit towards your chest? And as you stay there, could you feel your pelvis is really light? And at any point you could rotate it a little bit. Now, so you could lower one hip a little bit and lift the other one. So one side of your pelvis lifts, the other side goes down. You could go 12 to 6 with your pelvis, so you could arch it a little bit more or round it a little bit more. And as you play around with all of these different shapes, what's happening in your upper ribs? All those movements we did this morning with your arms in all of those different orientations to find that your arms could become more organised, with your chest in lots of different positions. Great. Legs down, have a rest. Long legs, long arms. And just get a sense at the moment of the length of your legs, the length of your arms, which for many of you I could see had been changing with the lessons that we've been doing, that your arms are looking longer on the ground, they're flatter. Legs are getting longer and flatter, lighter. So bend your knees again. Find this place where your pelvis can be light. Lift your pelvis. Take your arms under your back. And you can be holding your hands, you can be holding your elbows, whatever's comfortable for you. That you know you can lift, that you're not resting on them, that you've got a space there between, might just be a light layer of air, but you're not squashing your arms. Your back's very light. And very slowly begin to lower your pelvis. And again, feel how much has this got to do with lowering, lengthening your belly, especially your low belly. What's really allowing your pelvis to go down to the floor? For your coccyx to be moving backwards a little bit in space, so that you can feel how long and extended you can be while you're resting on your arms. And how all of you is adapting to this. The ribs are adapting. Your belly's adapting. Your sternum's adapting. Your neck is adapting. What happens in your chin? What happens to the curves? Do you feel your feet are really there to support you? But they're not working hard because they're lined up. So that it's really easy to have this weight on your upper back, weight on your feet, and to have this ability to really softly change the shape of your torso. So maybe one hip could touch down before the other. And what does that do to your belly? What does that do to your ribs? And feel free too to play with where your hands are. Maybe you want them a little bit higher, lower, and feel how do these different parts of your back and your chest adapt and respond to softening, to lengthening, to feel the front of you between the top of your sternum and the bottom of your your pubic bone can really get long, while the back of your neck gets long as well, and your chin comes down. How easy is it to keep your arms soft on the floor? And have a rest again. And what of those movements? Are there maybe you're beginning to feel parts of your ribs that normally don't touch the ground, or that press into the ground a lot? Maybe that contact is starting to even out a little bit. Is your breathing available in some places that maybe normally it isn't, especially deep down into your low back? Do you feel any sense that your breath can move way down into your low belly without arching your back, but just something softened there to allow the abdominal organs to move as your diaphragm comes down? Okay, keep your legs long. Take your arms to the ceiling as you had them this morning, palms touching. And very gently begin to tilt your arms right and left. And feel harder. Does that feel any different now? What does your pelvis do? Does anything happen in your low belly? Has that got anything to do with this movement? And does it make a difference as you take your arms left and right, if maybe as you went to the right you took them up a little bit or down a little bit? Do you feel the movement of your shoulder blades, that you know that you haven't sort of stuck everything together? And you'll know if you've got it, because your head will become free on the ground. You feel, what does one leg maybe get a little bit longer or shorter? Just as many of you I saw when we had the arms up long on the floor at the end of the last ATM, you could really feel your arms responding to the movement of the circles around your upper back. What do your legs do? Do you feel maybe one reaches a little bit longer? It's not working, it's just a very gentle softening. Again, really feeling, does my head do something different? Where does it go if I take my arms up above me? Where does my head go if I take my arms more down? So your head can slide on the floor, it can rotate on the floor, it can side bend. Your chin could go up, your chin could go down. You could get longer in your throat, shorter in the back of your neck. Let everything respond. And have a rest again. So one more little image that might just help, because we're going to do a lot now on the movements of your head and your arms. So if you think of the back of your neck, with the back of your spine in your neck, where the spinous processes are going up, where does the back of your spine join your skull? Where's your image internally of where the back of your spine joins your skull? You can feel, you can put a finger there if you like. Where is it? And I find most people have got a pretty clear image of this. Where does the front of your spine join your skull? Where does the front of your spine join your skull? Okay, so if you're a little confused about where your front of your spine joins your skull, and I put the skeleton here and open his mouth, maybe you can see where it is. Yeah. So the front of the spine is actually, if you went into your hard palate and went straight back, that is not, that's about C2. It's even higher. It's right up where your soft palate is. So your hard palate's the bony bit, and then you've got your soft palate. If you went up into your soft palate and went back, that'd be the top of your spine. It's pretty. There's your eyes. There's the bottom of your eyes, and there's the top of your spine. And I'd say pretty much in my experience, most of my clients think the front of their spine ends about here. Here. So is that going to change if you've got that image as you do these movements with your arms left and right? Might that change something in your image about where your head might be able to move and adapt to? And if you can feel your knees really wanting to bend a lot, spread them a bit. Spread them a bit. So we're not so much looking for the knees bending, but one could get a little bit longer. Might want to just reach a little bit along the ground as the other one gets a little bit shorter. So that your legs are soft and free of this. So then find a range where you can tilt your arms left and right. And this is not so much now up and down, but straight left and right. Find somewhere really easy where you could do that and begin to really slowly bring both legs to standing without interfering with the movement of your arms. So feel the rolling of your weight. And so your pelvis has to be free. Hips have to be free. You can do one leg at a time. Maybe you take one out to the side, the other one out to the side. And then continue the movement with your legs bent. So continue this movement of tilting your arms to the right, tilting your arms to the left with your legs bent. Feeling still the freedom in your shoulder blades and your collarbones. So your pelvis can move, but it's not the prime mover. You're really finding the softness in your shoulder girdles and your ribs. And really feel what happens to the low belly here. Have you got a pattern when things get difficult that you want to hold it tight? How do you keep that low belly responsive so that then you know your sit bones are responsive, tailbones free? Okay. Leave your legs bent and your feet standing. Take your arms now out to the side. And very slowly, could you begin to slide your arms up above your head and just find a place where they feel light, easy, pelvis is still free. And one of the ways you'll know that they're still light is that they're light to lift off the floor. So if you feel you've got them in a position and to lift your arm, you'd have to hold your breath. You'd have to tighten something in your throat or belly. You've got them too high, so just bring them down somewhere where you know they're light. And then as we go on, you might be able to find that you can get them a little bit higher, but stay with ease. Okay, so those of you who have got a lot under your head might want to take it out at the moment because it might be getting in the way of your movement. Because as you get longer in your torso, longer in your arms and legs, you need less and less support. So feel free to have a little, but maybe you don't need quite as much. Okay. So now, could you lift your pelvis? Find a way to lift it where it's somewhere up at a comfortable height with weight on your upper back and your feet. And feel in this position, could you begin to side bend your head to take your right ear closer to your right arm and then your left ear closer to your left arm. And we're really clarifying the planes of the head here. So be really clear you're not turning your head, so your nose isn't turning. That this is a side bending movement of your head. And because you've got your pelvis lifted somewhere where it's light, feel what does your pelvis do to respond to this side bending movement of your head? What do your upper ribs do to respond? Side bending, not turning. Be really clear that it's not turning. And of course, your head has to be free enough that you've got the weight distributed enough on your feet and on your arms and on your upper back that your head's free to do this. Okay, then could you turn your head? Can you feel the difference? That you're going to turn your head this time, so your nose is going to turn to the right, go towards your right arm, and then turn to the left to go towards your left arm. And if you've got your arms at a okay height, feel your shoulder blades will be adapting to this, your arms will be adapting to this a little bit. But see, is there a difference in what your pelvis does if you turn your head compared to if you side bend your head? A lot? Yay! And is there something different in what your upper ribs and your sternum do? Depending on whether you turn your head or you side bend your head. Side bending. Which one? Sorry. No, that's rolling. Yeah. There's a little, yeah. I'll show you what translate. Yeah, the side bending's got a bit more translation in it. Yeah? Okay, then, again, take a rest whenever you want. Could you take the back of your head towards your arm? So not your nose. So before we were taking the nose towards your arm. So what would you have to do with your head to think of sliding the back of your head towards your right arm? And then the back of your head towards your left arm. So it's a turning. You've got to turn. Can you feel that? The back of your head, not your ear, the back of your head. So where's your nose going to go? What's your chin going to do? Is your chin going to come down or go up? To take the back of your head towards your arm, can you feel your chin has to go up and get longer? And what does your pelvis do now? And what do your upper ribs do? So how easy can you find this place of support where you know your weight's balanced, you know your pelvis is light, you know you can shift your weight, so you can really begin to feel, can my pelvis respond to the movement of my head? And what's that got to do with the freedom in my upper back and my sternum, my ribs from my spine? And see if you can begin to feel that, especially to get this one with the back of your head going toward the arm, that you have to be able to separate the movement of your sternum and ribs from your spine. They can't be doing the same thing. Have a rest again. And notice as you're lying now, your contact, does your head maybe feel a little lighter against the back of the floor than maybe it normally does? Beginning to feel those connections from your head through your chest, shoulder girdles, your sternum down through to your pelvis and your hips and your feet. And then go back to that Same position, so bend your knees. Again, start with your arms out to the side and take them up where they feel comfortable, just where they feel comfortable. Lift your pelvis up to that upper back where you can, and feel, does that enable you to take your arms a little bit higher? Do your arms somehow get lighter? And then this time, play around with touching different parts of your head in the direction of your arms. If you can touch your arms, that's great. But so you could take your chin down, you could take your chin up. Just how many different parts of your head can you orient towards your right arm and towards your left arm? So finding this mobility in your neck, this ability to change the shape of your neck, how that's dependent on the softness of your upper back. And can you feel your arms respond to this, that your arms aren't just sort of lying there lifeless? If they are lifeless, I know they're not light. Huh? So it's not that they're doing a big movement, but that they're responding. There's something that's happening. But every part of you is involved in this, your knees and your feet. Okay. And rest again. How easy is it, you know, when we're asked to explore options like that? How many can we come up with? And how do you begin to sense that this freedom of your neck and head is absolutely dependent on everything underneath it? Being able to support your head. Okay, keep your right leg standing and your left leg long. Take your arms to the ceiling. Left hand holds your right wrist, so your arms aren't straight, they're just soft and left hand's holding your right wrist. And you're using, again, your left hand to lead your right arm to the left. And then you're returning. So this is much like we were doing this morning. So you'll be thinking of your left elbow softening down toward the floor. You can really feel your shoulder blade sliding over your ribs, and that softness there is allowing your neck and head to respond. And of course, your right leg stays standing, the right knee stays standing, but your pelvis can move, whatever it likes. Which leg gets longer as you do this? You get a sense somehow that your left leg could get longer. And it's not that you're making it longer. And then really feel free to just again explore slightly different trajectories up and down as you take. So what trajectories, and does that change where your head goes? So how can you let your torso follow? So that as soon as your arm starts to reach, something's happening in your neck, something's happening in your upper back. So it's not your pelvis leading the movement. It's your arm gently being led over. What does your low belly do? When would it get longer or shorter, and is it doing something different on both sides? So if your left leg wanted to get longer, what would your left low belly need to do? And then could you move your head and your eyes and your hands all together as you take your arm to the left? Everything together. Everything together. Everything together. Come back to the middle. Leave your left arm on the floor to the left. Still keep your right leg standing. So your right leg's standing and your left arm's on the floor to the left. The right leg's standing, so it's out to the side. It's out at arm level. Your right arm's just down now. And begin to slide your left arm upwards and downwards on the floor. So your right arm's down, your right arm's down. It's just, but your left arm's out to the side. And you're sliding your left arm up and down on the floor. And how much of you allow to be involved in that? So at any moment along that trajectory, could you pause and just feel, could I gently slide my arm a little bit away further in that direction and bring it back toward me? While it's on the floor, just a little slide away further in the direction of my fingers and bring it back toward me. And then I just slide it up or down a little bit more, and I find another place where I could gently slide my arm, my left arm, a little bit away from me and back toward me. Feeling when it would make sense that your palm would be down, feeling when it would make sense that your palm would be up. As if someone's gently pushing and pulling through that left arm. And if they were doing it, they could feel the connection deep into your sternum and your upper ribs and the base of your neck and your head and your ribs. They'd feel it all the way through to your pelvis and your legs. This little push and pull through your arm. And then bring your arm down by your side again, your left arm. And this time as you slide it up and down, forget the push and pull, but see, could my eyes follow my hand? So that I'm looking at my hand the whole time as I'm taking it down. It's starting off down near your pelvis and I'm sliding it up to the side and up above your head. Your eyes are following it all the time. What does your head have to do? What can your pelvis do? What do your legs do? When does your left leg get longer? When would you use your right leg a little bit to help you? And then could you keep your head and hand going in the same direction, but move your eyes a little bit in the opposite direction? So you're just sliding your left arm up and down to the left, down in the direction of your pelvis, up in the direction of your head, and you're feeling all of you finding an easy, aesthetically pleasing way to do this. And then a few times allow your eyes to do whatever they like. As you slide your arm up and down and feel every part of you involved, every toe, every finger is in your image, your elbows and your knees and your ankles and your wrists, and the back of your head and the front of your head, and the side of your head, and all those spaces up in your palate and your soft palate and your jaw and your tongue. If you were going to let your right arm do something, what would it do? Is it just staying stuck out to the side? Or are you letting it too respond a little? Okay. Stop, legs long, arms long. And really get a sense now, take a minute to really scan through, because we've been doing very symmetrical movements and now we've done a very asymmetrical movement. So how do you feel your right foot and your left foot? How do you feel your right calf and your left calf? How do you feel your right thigh and your left thigh? How do you feel the right side of your torso and the left side of the torso? Is there something different in your breathing or in your sense of the shape? How do you feel your right hand and your left hand? Your right forearm and your left forearm? Your right upper arm and your left upper arm? Your right shoulder blade and your left shoulder blade? And which side would all of you feel easier to roll to come up to sitting and standing? So which side would you roll to as a whole to come up to through sitting to standing? Would you roll to your left or your right? And I've got a couple of minutes over. I really wanted you to feel this difference. So up in standing, is there a difference in your right arm and your left arm? So as I said, we did a really symmetrical ATM, and just at this very last little bit, we did these movements of rolling more to the left, lengthening the left arm. How's that influenced? The freedom of your head to go to the left and the right. And just feel the side bending of your head, the turning of your head, the back, taking your head backwards as you turn. All these movements. And can you feel how they go through you, through your chest and your shoulders and your pelvis? And have a walk around. and feel. You'll have a little bit of a difference at the moment. How would you go through a process of evening that out a little bit? Because as I said, it was totally symmetrical till the last little bit. So what could you observe in yourself, or what movement could you do where you could go, how could I maybe calibrate this a little bit? Great day, everyone. We'll see you in the morning.